Now, the head of the European Union Commission, this gentleman here, has called on the bloc to stand united against U.S. unilateralism.
United, we Europeans as a union have become an unavoidable force. In Washington, I spoke on behalf of Europe. Some described the agreement, the deal I obtained at the end of negotiations with US President Donald Trump, as a surprise. However, there was no surprise, because whenever Europe speaks as one, there is no surprise. It can, if it wants, and if it speaks with one voice, impose its position on others.
In his annual State of the Union address before the EU Parliament, Juncker said that the bloc should turn into a global player and power. The EU's chief executive also questioned the use of the dollar in EU trade deals with other countries. He says that euro should be promoted to be used as the global currency. Juncker also criticized the rise of nationalism as a dividing force on the continent. He then submitted to lawmakers a proposal to strengthen the EU's border and coast guard forces in order to boost the bloc's security. Okay, now we'll have Jason Unruhe, a political commentator, joining us from Niagara Falls, Ontario. Good to have you with us, Jason. Main question I have is, you see that the EU, regardless of other parts of the world, Russia, Turkey, China, the EU is trying to stand united, as Juncker put it, in the face of the U.S. They want to cut down on their dependence on the U.S. in every possible field. It's not only using the U.S. dollar in terms of security and everything else. Why is that?
Well, I think what we have in this case is maybe a bit of a struggle for power. The EU has largely been subservient to U.S. power for a fair amount of time. You know, the United States is the largest economy inside the entire world, the largest primary superpower. So to that degree, they must bow to U.S. interests quite a lot. But I think that the recent actions by U.S. President Donald Trump, the trashing of unilateral trade agreements, or the unilateral trashing of trade agreements, has been a tremendous bane on a lot of countries, Germany, other countries that import, export steel, etc., aluminum. So I think that a lot of people are starting to get fed up with the way that Trump runs the U.S. empire. I think that as both Russia and China are beginning to trade without the U.S. dollar, a lot of other countries are getting fed up with the way that the U.S. manipulates its currency as the world's reserve currency for trade for their own benefit, and allows them to control other countries, to essentially sanction and control people without the consent of the UN Security Council or even the UN. This gives them a great deal of financial power in the world. And I think that in the case of Europe, they realize that a united Europe under a single currency would be a significant power, something that would be able to rival that of the United States, if not able to overtake it, but at least something to assert their independence. I think that this was largely the reason for the creation of the euro to begin with.
Okay, Jason, you talked about the euro overtaking the U.S. dollar. This is what Juncker also said, that he said that in global trade and among EU and other countries also, they want the euro to take the place of the dollar. Do you think this will happen? Let's give me the answer briefly, please.
I think it's very possible. It would be up to a lot of countries to choose to switch. Whether or not that's going to happen, I think that's really up to the global community as to whether or not they want to go ahead and stop using the U.S. dollar for trade. It's a difficult process, but one that actually it can be carried out.
All right, thank you for that. Jason Unruhe, political commentator, joining us from Ontario.